The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
From head to toe, George Washington represented the strength, grace, and dignity of the American people. From a small volunteer force of citizen farmers, he created the Continental Army out of nothing and rallied them to stand against the most powerful military on earth. Through 8 long years, through the brutal winter at Valley Forge, through setback after setback on the field of battle, he led those patriots to ultimate triumph. When the Army had dwindled to a few thousand men at Christmas of 1776, when defeat seemed absolutely certain, he took what remained of his forces on a daring nighttime crossing of the Delaware River. They marched through 9 miles of frigid darkness, many without boots on their feet, leaving a trail of blood in the snow. In the morning, they seized victory at Trenton after forcing the surrender of the most powerful empire on the planet. At town, General Washington did not claim power, but simply returned to Mount Vernon as a private citizen. When called upon again, he presided over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia and was unanimously elected our first president. When he stepped down after 2 terms, his former adversary, King George, called him the greatest man of the age. He remains first in our hearts to this day. For as long as Americans love this land, we will honor and cherish the father of our country, George Washington. He will never be removed, abolished, and most of all, he will never be forgotten.
All right, welcome everybody. It is Washington's birthday, February 19, 2024, right here on Idaho Signal. My name is Matt Edwards, and yes, on this program, Washington will not be forgotten. There has been a collective for forgetfulness, and it was thrust upon us by, I don't know if it was by mattress companies or by car dealers. Somebody was behind this notion that today is something called President's Day, and it is absolutely not President's Day. We know it's not President's Day because people can never figure out how they should spell presidents. Should it be presidents with just an S? Should it be an apostrophe S? Should it be S apostrophe? Are we celebrating one president? Are we celebrating multiple president? Is it an actual President's Day? Is it possessive? We have no idea. And the reason for that is because today is actually George Washington's birthday. That is in U.S. code. And I will go to my grave every President's Day, quote, is where I come out and say that, no, it is George Washington's birthday. And if I have an outlet like this, I'm going to make sure that we stop. I'm going to do my best to make sure everybody stops using the fake name of today. Today is George Washington's birthday, and we welcome you to the program. Okay. And in commemoration of Washington's birthday, we've filled up our empty spot that we've had back here with my George Washington piece of art that I have, and I've decided to bring it into the studio and fill up that blank spot. People have said, what's going on with that blank spot back there? Don't you have something nice? Well, now we do, and it's George Washington. So, all right, folks, enjoy the rest of George Washington's birthday today. We have a fantastic show today. At the top of the hour, we are going to have Dr. Daniel Babinski on, and he has some not breaking news, but he has some good news to share, and it is such a treat to be able to have someone like Dr. Babinski on. He is back on X. He was banned 3 years ago, I believe, in the great purge, the great Twitter purge, but he is back, and we will have him at the top of the hour. So in the meantime, let's check in on the House floor. Right now, it looks as though Representative Mathias is answering questions or debating his bill, House Bill 539, which, what is that? School harassment and bullying. So he's taking on school harassment and bullying and answering some questions from Representative Heather Scott. I don't know. Can we listen in, guys, and see what the discussion is?
Yield another question.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. Can a teacher do this already or a principal do this already? If they have a troubled student that's bullying, can't they go talk to the parents? I mean, why does this have to be in law? I would think if you had a problem student, you bring in the parents, you sit them down and say, here's what's going on. I don't understand, why we have to codify this part.
Jump 19.
Mr. Speaker, good lady from 2. I'm not sure I heard the question, but just to reiterate, parents have a right to know what is happening to their kids in school. And when something is happening to that child which puts their life in jeopardy and the lives of others in jeopardy, that seems to be a great opportunity for a school, and again, most of them already do this, to send home a couple of paragraphs with very tailored and helpful pieces of information that can help parents protect their children. I know I would like this information. There's a lot of information out there.
Okay.
There's a lot of resources that are out there, and a lot of people don't know where they all lie.
All right. That's the debate going on with this bill, House Bill 539. So if you want to pay attention to what's going on in the House, go ahead and do that. We also do want to check in over on the other side of the rotunda. We know that the state Senate is currently in session as well. And so let's dip in over on the Senate side and see what they're doing.
That the Senate adopt the committee report. Senator Cook, you're recognized to open the debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, before I go into great detail of the Honorable Todd Lakey's life, I would like to first.
Okay, we don't need to go into great detail on the Honorable Todd Lickey's life. And I don't know if that was a joke or not, but we'll keep tabs on there. There is a bill coming up later today in the House. We don't know if they'll get to it, but it'll be interesting to tune in if they do. And that's House Bill 531. Representative Ron Mendive ran a bill last year that would allow parents and legal guardians to teach their kids how to drive and have that be the way that kids can then move forward and get their driver's license. Last year, the bill sailed through the House and Senate. It got to the governor's desk, and the governor said, "No, we're not going to allow parents to teach their kids to drive." And then when the House and Senate tried to override the veto, they failed. So Mendive is back with a different version of the bill, and so it'll be interesting to hear that debate should it come up today. So we will check in on that. Over the weekend, I had the pleasure of going to the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee Lincoln Day. As you know, Lincoln Days across the state in the different counties and central committees in the Republican Party will announce they'll announce days where they're going to have these big Lincoln Day dinners, and Kootenai County is known for holding one of the more premier events. Over the years, they've had people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think was last year, Dinesh D'Souza. These are folks in recent years. This year they had talk show host and former Trump advisor Sebastian Gorka was the guest speaker. Here's the tweet from the Idaho GOP. Dorothy Moon spoke at the dinner. She was particularly positive about the upcoming caucus and explaining. I think everybody who's registered Republican should have gotten this postcard in the mail, and we'll have Dorothy Moon on later this week to talk about it. But we had Dorothy Moon up there talking about some sort of a hit piece mailer that went out over the course of last week, and so she was pretty incensed about that because it attacked her. But also Congressman Russ Fulcher also spoke at the dinner, and so it was quite an event. Hundreds and hundreds of people attend these dinners, and this one here was held at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. One of the things that was interesting there, because the place is also filled with, excuse me, because Kootenai County covers three congressional districts, District 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's four legislative districts. That's an opportunity for a lot of legislators to be in the room at once, and there were obviously people across the state as well. And one of the interesting things being overheard was that this budget process, the budget transparency process, that the good folks fought so well and valiantly for, is still not necessarily set in stone. The bills that are passing through the House, these maintenance bills that are passing through the House and then heading on to the Senate and vice versa and being passed there, they still have to get signed by the governor. And there might be something in the works here where the governor starts to veto these maintenance bills. So we're going to have to turn our attention to the governor soon as these bills get through and get sent to his desk to make sure that he does not veto these budget bills and destroy the good work of our conservative, fiscal, responsible folks in the House and Senate and on JFAC who have been working tirelessly to get this. There is a lot of undermining going on, and we'll talk about some underminers later this week, but there's a lot of undermining going on in this process, and we are going to make sure that transparency rules the day. So stay ahead of that. Okay. We a couple of weeks ago, we had President of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, Greg Pruitt, on to talk about Senate Bill 1310, which is still in the works. We'll get an update on that later. And it was a 2A bill on carrying on public property. And so they released a remarkable commercial that they are getting behind. and they want you to know about it. And it's about this whole ranked choice voting open primary initiative process that is being undertaken by the far left in this state. They want to open up the primaries, and they want to add ranked choice voting. And busting open a primary and not allowing a private political party to pick their own representatives, to pick their own nominees for elections, is a violation of the spirit of the First Amendment and our right to assemble. And this initiative is being pushed by the left because they know that they cannot get through any of their, well, not any of them, but it's pretty hard. They just have to spend a lot of money and a lot of capital pushing through a lot of their agenda. And when it comes to Second Amendment, the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance has some pretty strong warnings about what will happen if open primaries and ranked choice voting make its way to Idaho. So I'm encouraging you folks, if you come across these folks who are asking you to sign a petition in support of open primaries, and they'll use words like, if you're for fair elections or election integrity, what could be more fair than allowing everybody to vote in the elections? Should you be denied the right to vote? We don't want people to be denied the right to vote. Well, you can vote in any of the primaries that you wish, as long as you abide by the rules of the party. I mean, that's the whole point. In order to vote in the Republican primary, you have to be a registered Republican. So we're gonna keep pounding away on this issue. But we want to thank Idaho Second Amendment Alliance for releasing this ad. We're gonna play it now. It's gonna be in our rotation, and then afterwards we'll be back with more. So stay tuned.
Idaho is a conservative state. That's why leftist billionaires and woke progressives are pushing the ranked choice runoff scheme. Their goal, a radical anti-gun equity agenda. Repeal stand your ground and constitutional carry and pass red flag gun confiscation. This is about taking our guns, destroying our freedom, radicalizing Idaho, and changing our state forever. Stop them before it's too late. Open primaries and ranked choice voting will destroy Idaho. Don't let leftist billionaires turn our state into California.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty, for honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, welcome back. Matt Edwards here. The Signal's live on the air. We wanted to update you on some bills that went through committee. And, one that may not seem so vital to our republic, so to speak, but one that is, I know it affects me and my family, and I know it affects a lot of people. And that is daylight savings time. I don't know anybody who actually just loves the idea of switching our clocks back and forward and back all two times a year. And so Representative Joe Alfieri out of District 4 in Coeur d'Alene was before the House I think it was the State Affairs. It very well could have been in front of the Health Committee. But it was he was in front of committee nonetheless, presenting a bill that would ultimately get rid of daylight savings time in Idaho. We'll let him explain it. So here's Representative Joe Alfieri.
Mr. Chairman, Representatives, Joe Alfieri, District 4, and I bring before you RS 30948C1, which is an act that would take the state to using standard time all year long. So we would no longer have to go through the struggle of trying to figure out how to reset our automobile clocks. I actually know people that have traded in cars rather than change that clock. Standard time was daylight savings time was instituted about 100 and some years ago during World War I to supposedly help farmers. Since that time, we've actually had some changes in lifestyle, such as the advent of electricity. which gives us lights, so we no longer have to worry about those types of things. But the real argument for instituting standard time all year long is that it's unhealthy to continually switch time back and forth. It violates the circadian rhythm of your body. We are designed by our Creator to get up with the sunlight and go to sleep when it's dark. And by forcing people to get up when it's earlier, when the sun isn't up, we are creating health problems. We have an increased incidence of heart failure, increased automobile accidents, and a number of different reasons. This bill would go into effect when 2 other states do the same. So we are working with neighboring states in the area. Oregon is close to getting this done. We're looking at as well at Wyoming and Montana. There's a bill in Washington and California as well. So it would go into effect when 2 other states implement it as well. And with that, I'll entertain your questions.
Thank you, Representative Alfieri. Are there questions for Representative Alfieri? Representative Crane, 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Alfieri, for bringing this forward. My first question is, would we be going to the Eastern time zone? Would we be going back an hour? Would we maintain our Mountain Standard Time and they catch up to us? What would be the shift that we would take?
We will thank you, Chairman Crane, Representative Crane. We will maintain our 2 time zones.
Okay.
So that won't change at all.
Okay, so there it is, folks. Some good news. You know, I thought we've been dealing with this daylight savings time issue, trying to get rid of it for years, nationwide and in these individual states. But I ran into, as I mentioned at the Lincoln Day dinner, ran into Representative Alfieri at the KCRCC Lincoln Day, and you know, it was like a big thank you. I mean, people were like, yes, like we have to do this, and we got to start it somewhere. So while it seems so inconsequential, like I said, to saving our republic here, he brought up the great point, which is that it messes with your rhythm. And when you're waking up and everything is off, I mean, it's just like, it's like talking about the weather. Everybody can relate to this whole fiasco. So nonetheless, we commend Representative Alfieri for taking this on. And, you know, if it kicks in with the other states, and you know, we can definitely start this across. I think it's Hawaii and Arizona currently do not recognize daylight savings time, and so if they can do it, the rest of us can do it. And he had some good points there. So we will maintain the split in the time zones, where the North will still be an hour behind the South. I don't mind that. That's neither here nor there. I just don't want to move the clocks back and forth. All right, a little bit of good news and fun in the House State Affairs on that specific day. That was the same day that they looked at a bill that would talk about compelling speech and forcing people to use pronouns and the like. So we're going to get to that later today. This morning, though, in House State Affairs as well, was Representative Jason Gallagher, another pledge signer in good standing. Both her and Alfieri are as such. And she was in House State Affairs this morning discussing unions and being able to understand when you are employed as a public, at least as a public employee, that you're not forced nor compelled to join a union. So here was Representative Gallagher this morning in House State Affairs.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I am Representative Jason Gallagher from District 9, Washington County, Payette County, and part of Canyon County. This RS it does 2 things. The first thing is it requires an annual notice that public employees cannot be forced to join or pay union dues as a condition of their job. The notice would state that each employee is free to join the union and to pay a union. It's just a notification telling them of their rights, that they're not forced to do this, they don't have to do this. The notice would state that they are free to abstain from union membership or withdraw their membership at any time. Joining or not joining has no impact on the individual's employment. This notification can be sent either hard copy or by email. And just want to share that public employees are currently not notified about their rights to refrain or withdraw from union membership. Idaho is a right-to-work state, so union membership and dues are voluntary, and people should know that. Employees should know that. So the next step is privacy. So the first step is transparency. The second step is privacy. We're all concerned about our private information being exposed. This second portion protects private contact information of public employees being shared with unions without their consent. So Idaho currently prohibits personal contact information being shared with telemarketers or mailing lists without their consent. However, Idaho law does not protect public employees' contact information from being shared with unions. This bill extends privacy protections to public employees, ensuring that unions are not receiving employees' private contact information without their consent. And with that,
okay.
I ask for
yes, thank you, Representative Gallagher. She got a few questions. We don't need to play the rest of it, but she did get a few questions. But the committee did vote to print that bill, so it'll return back to another committee where they will discuss it further. So we wanted to put that out there, that there's been a number of folks who get really concerned about obviously their data being shared. And when you are hired as a teacher or anything where you are then have the ability to join a union, a lot of times you don't realize that you have the option to not join. Idaho is a right-to-work state, which means that everybody has a right to work, that you do not need to be in a union in order to work. There's many states still have it on the books that certain industries you cannot be hired either by the government or they go into bargaining agreements with private companies. We just went through what we saw in Hollywood, where the writers and the actors, eventually SAG and the Writers Guild, both went on strike to negotiate their contracts. But when it comes to government employees and unionizing there, a lot of folks don't realize that you do not have to join the union. And you can have opinions, one way or another about what a union can do for you and such, but notoriously unions usually take a lot of their dues and spend countless dollars of the dues that come in to then donate or use it against maybe your own interests. We see that happening a lot, especially when it comes to certain educational unions. But this is a good bill here in order to just provide transparency. Idaho is a right-to-work state, and we will provide transparency as we move forward. It's what we're all about, from the budget to unions to whatever. Okay. All right. We are going to. We're going to invite our guest on here in a minute, but I want to play a clip that Dr. Babinski has released. He releases these 1-minute updates and notices for his audience and everybody else. These are like public service announcements. But up in District 1, Senator Scott Herndon is going to be facing a challenge from the former Senator Jim Woodward, who was resoundingly defeated in the primary in 2022. And so Daniel Babinski noticed something about Woodward's campaign and released this video. So let's watch this.
Idaho, maybe you've seen Jim Woodward is attempting to run for the state Senate again, District 1. What's surprising, or not so surprising, is that Woodward knows he can't get elected again in the Republican Party unless he has help from Democrats. Take a look at this. On Woodward's website, he specifically tells visitors how many days they have left to change their party affiliation to Republican. He also does this on his social media advertising. Now, some might not be aware of why Jim Woodward lost his seat back in 2020, and that's because he got a big fat F rating from the Idaho Freedom Index. That's pretty bad. That means on a regular basis, Jimmy voted to increase the state's power over you and to restrict or outright eliminate your liberties. Jimmy, if you're wondering why you got dropped from the Senate in the first place, it's because Idahoans who care about freedom gave your voting record a big, fat F.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Babinski to the program. Thank you, sir, for joining us. These are great videos that you put out. It's really great to be able to share them in small bites like this. I first have to say thank you so much for not only being someone who's focuses on Idaho news, but also reaches across the nation and is covered. I mean, you're an author. There's so many great things that you have provided to the folks who care about keeping the republic. And your website, keeptherepublic.us, is a vital place for people to go, and we'll make sure people get there. Yeah, we have your info scrolling at the bottom here. Sir, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. So I wanted to learn more about True Idaho News, because when you and I spoke offline, you had mentioned that you wanted to bring that back a little bit further or a little bit more, add some more gusto and reviving that channel again. But I also want to get your overall perspective on the state of the media in Idaho, because one of the reasons why we started broadcasting this year was to cut through the noise and to really be able to highlight and amplify the messages that so many great liberty legislators can't seem to get through with the regular mainstream press in Idaho. And you've seen this across the nation. We've all seen that, but here in Idaho specifically, what have you noticed, and what compelled you to get into the same field?
Well, it's kind of funny you ask. The reason that True Idaho News is called True Idaho News is I was watching some clip of Who's the Socialist on KTVB. I forget his name.
Oh, Brian Holmes?
Yeah. See, you knew exactly who I was talking about. He was reporting some lying through his teeth and gaslighting and deceiving. And I said to my wife, I said, we need some True Idaho News. It's like, bing, that went off. And it's like, okay, need to do that. Because I remember when Priscilla Giddings was being railroaded and they made up all sorts of lies about her. And so I sat down with her for I don't know, an hour-long interview, maybe an hour and a half. And we broke that, we put that online and let people know. And that kind of helped propel it. But this was what we're talking about. We have a socialistic mainstream, quote unquote, media, and all these TV stations out there. I can't think of one anymore in Idaho that promotes a conservative, liberty-minded agenda. Every one of them touts a left-leaning agenda. So shows like yours, platforms like the Readout News and the Gem State Patriot, and you have the True Idaho News, and there's so many in the state, independent little places. And I think this is the way to do it. Because I was talking with my nephew the other day. He's in his 30s. And both him and his girlfriend were saying they never listen to the radio anymore. They don't watch TV anymore. They get all of their news from podcasts. And so I think this is the way to reach young kids, is forget the mainstream media. We argue about them. We need these little 60-second spots. We need long form. We need everything, because not everybody gets their stuff from TV and radio anymore.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I mean, the reach that we have by not having to deal with not only the rules of like the FCC and that sort of thing, but the idea of just, getting past the gatekeepers and getting your voice on traditional radio or television.
Can I jump in on that? Because you just mentioned the FCC. So for nearly 3 years here in the Treasure Valley, I have done a terrestrial radio show called Keep the Republic. It's on Saturday mornings. And the station manager called me up last week and said, guess what? The FCC has new rules. This is a Christian radio show. I'm a Christian, solid Christian, very proud to say that. I mean, our founders were 52 of our 55 signers were all solid Christians. I have no problem saying that. And I'm on a Christian radio station. And she says the FCC has new rules out now. They're not reinstating the Fairness Doctrine. They're reinstating the Fair Practice Act or something like that. So I think it's called equal time. So if I have a conservative on talking about a political issue. This does not apply to Christianity and that kind of stuff. It's talking about political issues. If I have a conservative politician on talking about political issues, I am not mandated anymore to contact someone from the opposing side and say, hey, I gave so-and-so 15 minutes, which is what the Fairness Doctrine did prior to 1987. But now, let's say we've got this gal who's the Satanist who's been giving presentations at the Statehouse. If she were to hear one of my shows and go, I want to counter that, she can go down to the radio station. We are now be required to fill out all sorts of paperwork to say who the guest was, what the topic was, how many minutes were devoted to it. It's very cumbersome. And then if she demands it, I would be obligated to give her that time. So this coming Saturday is my very last terrestrial radio show. I'm not going to play that game.
Wow.
And I will be moving to the internet with a new show and doing both national news and Idaho news. I'm going to have two different shows, but we got to get out there and reach people. And I think, as I just said earlier, the radio is going bye-bye anyway. So let's use this online platform.
Wow, that is incredible. That's incredible news. I mean, that's even worse than the Fairness Doctrine. It sounds like you have to take time out of your show and be forced to talk to somebody if that person arrives at your show to demand equal time.
That's what I'm told.
That is incredible. Wow. Okay. Well, wow. Okay.
So the Fairness Doctrine, I would have been mandated to contact somebody from the opposite side and say, look, we gave so-and-so 10 minutes. If you want, you can come in and take 10 minutes.
Sure.
That requirement's not there. But if they come in and they demand it, then we would have to give it.
Right. Wow. And just out of curiosity, is this the type of news that one could find in the local press that this new rule exists at the FCC?
I don't know. Maybe I'm on the leading edge of this curve. I was just contacted by the person who owns the radio station and said, you need to come look at this. There's going to be a whole bunch of new rules. As you do your show.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's gonna affect a lot of folks. From a lot of folks, a lot of the folks that out in the Magic Valley. Is it Bill? I forget the host's name out there in the Magic Valley, but he might get the same. He's going to be getting the same treatment, I imagine. So, all right. Well, then that leads into True Idaho News. What can you tell us about focusing on True Idaho News again?
So, True Idaho News is a web platform, and I post various things. I post national news there. I post Idaho news there. And I started it a couple years ago, and I actually kind of set it aside for a while, and sometimes wouldn't even post there for a month or two on end because I was focusing on my national TV show and my national news and doing 60-second commentaries on national issues. And I did that for about a year and a half until a couple months ago, I saw that the governor's PAC was funding these mailers to slam conservative legislators. And I said, okay, this is just unreal. I'm going to need to focus more attention back in Idaho to let people know what's really going on. Because those who are watching TV and listening to the radio, we got some good conservative talk show hosts out there. But as far as TV goes, they're not going to hear that from them. People need to know what's really going on in the state.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, when I moved to Idaho, newsflash, I'm not an Idahoan, but when I moved to Idaho, your site, the True Idaho News, and there was a few others, were the ones that I immediately gravitated towards because I wanted to learn more about the new home that I lived in. And I had followed you previously in my past life through Keep the Republic and you being on Twitter. I credit a lot of your enthusiasm of living in Idaho for putting it on my family's radar, and that was back when you had your previous Twitter account. Do you know why you were banned from Twitter? How many years ago now was that?
I did a 3-year stint in Twitter jail.
Yeah, walk us back. How did this happen? Do you even know? A lot of people don't even know why they're banned.
So. At the time, I was writing weekly for Uncover DC and Red State, and I was publishing a lot of stuff. And I would sometimes on my Twitter page, I would put up humorous images. And one of those images, one of their bots, I did not find this out until just a month ago. because I'd been appealing, and they kept saying, nope, we're not reinstating you. And I want to give a shout out to Ian McDonald with Media Right News, because he kept tagging Elon Musk and me, saying, Elon, reinstate Dr. Bobinski.
Oh, that's great.
He was just like the widow tugging on the judge's sleeve in the New Testament. It's like, okay, finally something happened. Ian called me a couple weeks back and said, hey, go check your Twitter account. I was back live. Turns out I finally, about a month and a half ago, got a response from Twitter as to why they weren't reinstating me. And it says, we've checked, and it says that you advocated self-harm. Now, I'm sorry. That's a snowball's chance in hell. So I said, I wrote back, I said, prove it. I said, some bot made this decision based on one of my memes or something. Go ahead and go back and look at my posts and show me the post that I advocated self-harm, because I did not. And I don't know if it was that or Ian McDonald's work or both. I don't know what, but next thing I know, I'm back on.
Oh, wow. So they never provided you any receipts or tweets that showed self-harm?
No.
Wow.
All of a sudden, I'm just back up. They didn't even notify me. I was just, right. Ian is the one that contacted me and said, hey, your account's back up.
And fascinating. But did you have to rebuild your followers? Because you had a pretty substantial following.
I did. Well, so before I got kicked out, this was back in 2020. I called it the Great Twitter Purge. And if you recall, they kicked out Trump, and they started kicking out all sorts of conservatives. And if you look at the Twitter files and you listen to the Mike Benz interview with Tucker Carlson, that was amazing. People need to watch that. I tell people, I recommend a lot of videos. If you watch nothing else in your life, watch that hour-long video.
I agree.
You don't even have to watch it. Just listen to it. It's amazing. But I called it the Great Twitter Purge. I went from 7,500 followers down to about 4,500 followers in about a month's time. They were just purging people left and right.
Right.
So I think I'm back up now to 4,600 or whatever, but it's just starting to build back up slowly.
Yeah.
But I guess the more that I do on Twitter, the more that'll happen.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, all right. Well, before I let you go, what we want to make sure we do here on the Signal is make sure we give people calls to action, what to focus on, where to direct their energy, so that we're not just caught up in a lot of the noise that's happening around us. So, when it comes to what you see are going on at the legislature, what's your top priority now? What do you think is the biggest thing that folks need to look on if you have that on the top of mind?
Well, I think the ranked choice voting is probably the biggest issue in this state. Because of my connect, I have people calling me saying there's somebody standing at my door wanting me to sign this petition for ranked choice voting. Mm-hmm. And they're saying this, and this, and none of it's true. And so I think we need to start having that conversation in this state. And I'm talking about over the dinner table with your friends. This is going to be key, because if we get ranked choice voting in the state, we could kiss conservatives getting elected goodbye, because the way that system works, it'll be rigged. You look at Alaska, and what is the eastern state? Is it Connecticut? They're trying to undo it.
Right.
They've realized what a mistake it was. And so we really need to stop it and get people educated on that. Stop the ranked choice voting. Have conversations about it. Learn about it. Be able to explain it. I'll be doing some 60-second presentations on it that I'm going to encourage people to share on their social media. A lot of folks are keyboard warriors. Fine. Let's share the bullets that are going to inform.
Fantastic. Well, send those to us too, and we'll play them on the program as they come out. We'll keep tabs on them. All right, Dr. Bobinski, give us the places where we can follow you and keep in touch with you. I know we've talked about it already, but let's have a nice little wrap up of where else we can follow you.
Sure. Well, you mentioned keeptherepublic.us. That's kind of the hub, but people can also subscribe to my Substack, which is simply danielbobinski.substack.com. All my little videos get put up there automatically, as well as some of my columns. If that's all they're interested in is my columns and my little videos, they can tune in there. So keeptherepublic.us and danielbobinski.substack. Oh, and then I have the what is that called? The podcast platform, which is currently called keeptherepublic.buzzsprout.com.
Fantastic. All right, folks. Well, make sure you go follow Dr. Babinski there if you haven't already. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are already familiar with that, but it's a good reminder to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on. Yes.
You
one more
mentioned
thing?
Twitter. I forgot Twitter. It's KTR Now.
KTR Now on Twitter. Yes, we have it scrolling at the bottom here, so if people are following that along. Fantastic. Thanks. All right, thank you again. We'll have you back.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Stick around. We got about 15 minutes left in the show. We'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those 2 founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
Okay, welcome back. We want to update you on a hearing that happened on Friday in the House State Affairs Committee. And this deals with the First Amendment, with free speech and the government mandating what you can or can't say or telling you what to say. But before we get into that real quick, there's a bill that we talked about with Attorney Kate Hartley last week, Bill 517, which deals with First Amendment. And this is having a hearing later today in the House State Affairs Committee. Or is it Judiciary and Rules? We're going to give you a call to action for this after we play a few clips here. But I want you to get prepared that 517 is going to be presented in committee today, and so we'll give you that information here in a little bit. But on Friday, we had this pronoun bill, they called it, and. I want to read to you the statement of purpose on what the reason was for this bill. This is House Bill 538. And excuse me, and this legislation here will protect the people of Idaho with a law that prohibits any government entity in the state of Idaho from compelling any public employee to communicate preferred personal titles or pronouns that do not correspond with the biological sex of the individual seeking to be referred to as such. So if the government is telling you, no, you must call that man a woman and use their pronouns, or you will be fined or fired or retribution will have happened to you, that's going to be illegal here. Senator Ted Hill presented this bill. It had a lengthy hearing. And one of the things that was that he talked about was a bill that passed the House in another state that actually attached these exorbitant fines if you were to violate this. And so it's extraordinary that we have to be at this point in our lives, that we are passing bills that say the government cannot force you to lie, to knowingly lie about another person, about an issue. I mean, talk about a slippery slope. Where does this end? Are we all going to be forced to say that Greedo shot first in Star Wars because Han Solo shot first? But that's where this is headed. Okay. That was the big tipping point in our society when George Lucas switched the shot. I'm telling you right now, you can go back in history. See, all right, we're digressing here. Anyway, let's take a listen to Representative Ted Hill. During the hearing, Vito Barbieri had a very good question for Representative Hill on this matter. Let's watch that clip as I regain my tongue twisting here.
the bureaucratic bullying you're talking about with respect to teachers and some of these. I think in terms of police, though, it would seem that courts would have enough confusion if the pronouns are misgendered or whatever, just in terms of prosecution and stuff like that. Do you have any data or information about how the courts are, addressing some of these concerns? I'm just thinking in my own case, having addressed with an employee, it just flowed right out of their mouths in terms of talking to somebody else, and I couldn't tell whether there was a group of them or there was only one, and it was amazingly confusing. But how would a court deal with this?
Representative Hill.
That's a great question. Thank you, sir. That is, I heard a police officer was having this, they're trying to investigate, and they're saying they did this, and they did this, they, who, what, when, a couple people? No, this they, this guy, this they, this. It's confusing. It was confusing from the police officer's perspective, and from the law, I can see absolutely chaos. So you have to actually going to have some flow chart to say, okay, they is this guy, and what we're going to do. It's going to be very challenging. I don't have any data, but I did get the anecdotal response from police officers and so forth that the confusion is definitely there. It's a good question, sir.
Can you imagine? The confusion is definitely there. Unbelievable. Okay, so at the end of the hearing, and again, maybe we'll post the whole hearing out of interest, but at the end of the hearing, Representative Hill wrapped up the bill, addressed some of the issues. It might seem a little bit out of context, but you can keep up with it. I feel pretty much about what kind of questions and what compelled some people to object to this bill in general, which really is if you want to use someone's pronoun, then you can use it. If the person wants to use it for themselves, they can use it. If you just can't get your brain to comprehend that I'm going to be lying if I use these terms and words, because it's these mental gymnastics that you have to go over just to function throughout the day. It's a mind warp. It's this brainwashing technique that happens in real time. It's extraordinarily dangerous. Anyway, so Representative Hill ended his hearing with these closing remarks. So let's listen to that.
Bill, District 14. Address a couple things on the Michigan reference. It's House Bill 4474. It is a House bill that says exactly what I said, not USA Today. So it's a House bill that says 5 years, $10,000 fine if you misgender identity somebody. That did not become law, but it got through the House. This bill does not prevent the use of pronouns. That came out again and again. It does not. That does not change it. There's not a flagrant disregard of that. That is not the intent. They can continue to use these. They can be recognized. Nothing should change. The thing we have to come back and focus on is, they say, the coercion, Madam, you were provided to, and also this compelled speech part. And also they use it, hey, this is relative to political. Well, I would say this is different. Is gender an ideology? Is a secular religion? So do religions. So religions come forward, say, whatever, Satanists or Christians, can they demand certain requirements in speech when you address them? Is that something we talked about titles. Do we have to address that for everybody? So where's the line? That's where this becomes fuzzy. And this is where I think it's important. We draw the line here. Where do we draw the line is what's a compelled speech? Any compelled speech of any form, in any case. Usually the case of the military. Compelled speech is not a good example. They can compel me to go fly into and get blown up. That's a totally different thing. That's irrelevant. That's a different compelled speech. This compelled speech in the public environment is you cannot be forced by government to submit to any sort of compelled speech. First Amendment, bottom line, we're defending that. And we have to start here because incrementally it could get slippery slope. What's the next thing coming down range? This is a very firm, crisp, constitutional issue. Please vote green on this, please.
Yeah, I mean, it is a slippery slope, folks. If we could, 5 years? A 5-year penalty? 5 years in jail, in prison, probation, whatever it is. 5 years of something for simply not lying? It's incredible. And that's what it is, folks. They want you to lie. They're compelling you to lie. They're think of that. Think about that for a second. Let that sink in. They want to compel you to lie. To compel you to lie. Incredible. And where does it end? Where does it end? That's why this is so important, folks. And at the tip of the spear, all these little bills that come through that have consequences, right? But these and I call them little bills because they're taking one, they're chipping away at one specific issue at a time, right? You had Representative Young had a bunch of different bills that were trying to make sure that we are getting the definitions correct in statute. All of those things are very, very important. Very important. And then you have House Bill 517, which is going to have a hearing today, after this program, in about an hour at 1:30 in the House Judiciary Rules and Administration. Is that what it is? The House JRA. That committee today will hear House Bill 517. And so scrolling now at the bottom of the screen is the phone number of the committee and the email. You can see it right down there. And you can also sign up to testify. You've got time in an hour or so to join live. Either if you're in Boise, head on down to that committee room and sign up to speak, or go to the legislative website and sign up to testify remotely, or you can provide written testimony. I provide written testimony from time to time on matters that I can't when I can't send video or whatnot. But this is the way to contact the committee. It's happening today at 1:30 in the House Judiciary Rules Committee. So this is a very important bill, this House 17. Did I even mention what it does again? Do I have to refresh your memory? House Bill 517 allows you to, it provides a path for you to get recourse from the state if your First Amendment rights are violated. We had attorney Kate Hartley on. I recommend you watching that entire interview. It's on our Rumble channel. It's getting a lot of views, and I'm very grateful to see that. But go watch that clip, our interview with Kate Hartley, where she lays out the importance of this bill. I mean, if your First Amendment rights are violated, you can sue in federal court if the government, if any entity of the government violates your First Amendment rights, and you can sue in federal court. But as we learned from attorney Kate Hartley, is that there's a lot to get through going to federal court. There it is right there. Watch that video. There's a lot to get through in federal court. This bill will allow you to find recourse in state court. Right here, we can write our own rules. We can write our own punishments. Whatever it is. This is the statute that they are proposing with House Bill 517 to allow you to. Should this bill not pass, the one we just talked about, 538, I think it was. Should this bill not pass, and government start telling you need to lie, and you say, "Well, I'm not going to lie," and then they take recourse against you, House Bill 517 will allow you to sue that person or to sue that agency for violating your First Amendment rights, even though it is in law. I mean, I can't imagine that this would hold up in court, that an agency would tell you, "Oh no, you have to lie. You have to lie because of that person's feelings." It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So we're not going to lie. We stand up for the truth here, and we are going to fight for the truth. I thank Daniel Babinski for coming on. He has been a warrior for the truth. He's a warrior for Idaho, and I'm so thrilled that True Idaho News is going to be ramped up again, and he'll be focusing on that. So very, very important. All right, folks, IdahoSignal.com is where you can support us. I do want to give a shout out to a bunch of folks, but I want to get their permission first. But we have been getting good feedback, donations, letters, emails. I haven't really gotten a handwritten letter or anything. But we have been getting a lot of good feedback. Even at the Lincoln Day, I don't get out much because I'm stuck in the studio a lot. But when I do get out, I've got people coming up to me at the Lincoln Day dinner. Folks were coming up to me and say, "Hey, I was in fact, hey guys, you got to hear this story real quick. I was sitting at my table with my wife, and I was talking to somebody else, and my wife I saw started talking to this woman who said that she was sitting at her table telling people about Idaho Signal, and then she looked over and she recognized me. She's like, "Oh my God, there he is." So she came over, she said hello. I believe her name was Judy. And so hi to Judy out there. Thank you so much for sharing the program. And to all of Judy's friends, welcome to Idaho Signal. Make sure you follow us on X, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, or Telegram, and share our content. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow. Happy Washington's birthday. Take care.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.